All right, well, I want to do a warm welcome to our Facebook Live people. We're about to start our presentation at Boost Biz Ed here. We are positively actionable education. So what we provide is education that people can take action with today. We have a room of people here watching the presentation live that get to be interactive. If you can't make it and you join us on live, please comment, and I will try to relay some of those questions at the end of the presentation if we have time for that. So we encourage you to come visit any of our locations. We have one here in Westminster, DTC, downtown Denver, Oregon, and in San Diego. So come join us at any of those. So with that, I'd like to introduce today's speaker. We have Allison Johanson with Supported Change, presenting career growth when you're most vulnerable. So she is passionate about helping working women and companies they work for thrive in creativity, innovation, and health. And she's been a licensed clinical social worker practicing in therapy since 2012 and has been in the field since 2007. She has extensive training in several therapeutic techniques with scientific backing, and she continues to grow her training annually. So with a rousing applause, please help me welcome Allison Johanson to the front of the room.
Thank you. So I always like to translate that, and I'm a shrink, I'm a therapist, and I also do a lot of speaking. So a couple years ago, about a year ago, I realized there's a lot of people that'll never end up in a therapy room, and maybe don't need it, maybe they just need a few skills. And so I started a lot more speaking, specifically to women's groups. That's mostly, although I speak to men as well. And so along with my therapy, that's another place that I allow for people to learn skills and grow from the knowledge that I've gained from my training and expertise. So today we're going to talk about how to grow when you're distracted, when life transitions get in the way. You're caretaking for a loved one and you're worried about that. You're sometimes when people just have children, I'm obviously in that process right now. You're distracted, worried about that. Relationship changes. And here you are as an entrepreneur still trying to be successful, trying to stay focused when your personal life feels really chaotic and your brain is filled with all of these things. So first I'm kind of a science geek. I like to talk about the science behind it and so that you can understand why the skills I talk about work. And then we go from there. So first I like to talk about what happens when we're stressed, when life is chaotic. Your body literally starts to shut down a little bit. It's too focused on all of the other stuff going on. You're less likely to react quickly. Sometimes digestive systems changes. But mostly your brain is changing. Your brain is filled with so many things. We only have 6 spots in our working memory. If one is filled with what am I going to do when I get home today, the other's filled with what do I have to do with my business, the other's filled with I'm worried about what's going on with my loved one, the other's filled with how do I function in life. I don't have that many more spots left to fill with how do I make my business grow, how do I make my business successful, or how do I just stay stagnant and get my job done. Things tend to fall through the cracks, things happen. This frontal cortex, the top of your brain, I always use this is your brain, and this is the top of the brain, and this is the brain stem. This is an actual picture. It looks a lot better than my fist, but what happens is this is your working part, the decision-making part of your brain. This is the reacting part of your brain, the part that says, a bear walks into this room, you need to react and save your life. Well, what happens when you have a lot going on in your life, you have car trouble, like we were talking about that before we got started, this frontal part of your brain starts to shut down. You can't make decisions as well. You're literally not at the capacity that you used to be. And instead you're working on this, how do I respond? How do I react? What do I do? Well, when you're owning and growing a business, that's a really hard place to live. You kind of need to be making decisions. You kind of need this. And so, people say, oh, I can compartmentalize. I can really focus, but you can't. There's a biological piece to this. So as we're talking about these skills, we're talking about how do I trick my body into functioning in all of this. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, and I touch on a few of them today. If you've heard of neurotransmitters, these are the web of communication in your brain. And you can see the huge difference between a normal neurotransmitter and a stressed neurotransmitter. You're not functioning. That's just a reality. So the first couple skills I'll talk about, and I gave the people who are here packets. Those of you on Facebook Live, I'll make sure to put a link so that you can gain the information as well. And I will make sure to do that by the end of the day today. But all of it's also in the slides, so you'll have access to that. But the first thing I'd like to do is tell my brain to function. So we slow down and we say, okay, brain, let's talk about problem solving, which is naturally going to make that frontal cortex function. And I like to start with a daily question sheet. Things that how many of you on your commute, or some of you don't commute because you're entrepreneurs, or when you're starting your day, you're thinking, what do I have to get done today? Am I going to be able to get everything done today? What do I have to do with my business? What do I have to do with my personal life? We ramp ourselves up early in the morning. And then you lay down to go to sleep and you think, what did I not get done today? What do I have to get done tomorrow? What am I falling short on? Oh my gosh, I forgot to send that email. Let me go do it real quick. I wonder if that person sent me an email. Let me check my emails. And my brain is still ramped up from the day. So I like to talk about ways that you can slow that process down and get ready for your day in an effective way, and then end your day in an effective way. Instead of this, oh my gosh, I'm going to ramp up, I'm going to get myself stressed, and then I'm still stressed, I'm still ramped up, and I never slow down. So I do that with asking a certain number of questions in the morning and in the afternoon. Some people like to do this while they're in the shower. If you have to drive somewhere during your commute. Some people like to do it during their morning coffee and then their afternoon tea, whatever it might be. So finding a time that you set aside that this is my time to regroup from the day and then shut down the day is very important. So the first is the morning, and I'll tell you, I've changed a lot of my verbiage. I don't use passion anymore as much, although it's still in a lot of my stuff, because one day I decided to look up passion on the internet to see if it would fit in the slide, and its first definition was a huge sexual desire, which I hope is not part of your business. It might be, but there's very few people that fit into that category. And then the other piece is some people have found this place that they get, it was something that gives you large amounts of energy that you would like to fight for. Well, some people have that in their career, and some people want to make money, and some people have both, and that's great. But I talk more about what gives you energy as opposed to passion, because for some people the passion doesn't resonate. It's, how do I make money? What do I do to get the job done? And for some people it's, no, I actually really am passionate about this, it gives me energy. The second definition, not the first. For some people it's the first. But, and so while passion's still in there, energy is what I'm talking about more. What gives me energy in my job? What do I like to do? So the first question is, what am I going to do today to fuel my passion and energy? Well, what that means is stopping and saying, what part of my job do I get the most energy from? And what am I going to do today to make sure that that happens? How many of you have ever had those days that you spend the entire day on that part you don't like of your job? The paperwork or the whatever it is that you dread. And then at the end of the day you go, oh, I hate what I do. Because you're not focused on that energy part. So starting the day saying, no matter what, I want to make sure that there's some part of energy, some part of this thing that gives me some sort of, yeah, my job doesn't suck, in my day. And making a plan for that's very important. Otherwise, you end up checking your email all day or doing something that's not fun, and then you feel drained. It doesn't feel so, it just feels like, work. The second is, what am I going to do today to feel proud? Sometimes that's a really small thing. I'm going to accomplish this on my to-do list. Sometimes it's a big thing. I'm going to do this really cool expansion of my business. But if we don't make a plan for what I'm going to feel proud for, we don't acknowledge those things that build us up. So I'm making the same to-do list, I'm doing that same thing, but I'm doing it in a different avenue. I'm changing my brain to do it with a different kind of focus. Do I have an idea of what my plan is to accomplish today? And then is it realistic? Does anyone in this room make a to-do list that is, I'm going to find peace on earth, you know, all of these things that you can't get it all done in a day. And then at the end of the day, you're feeling, oh, I didn't get anything done. So making sure that you have a plan that is realistic when you're sitting down saying, what am I going to do today, is very important so that you can feel accomplished. The other piece to this is, I always say, put some fun stuff on there. I'm going to eat lunch today. That way you don't skip it. I'm going to, sometimes, I will be honest, I'm going to take a 20-minute nap today. I put it on my to-do list to make sure I do it. I feel rejuvenated, and the second part of my day is wonderful. And so I think we spend a lot of time putting, this is the stuff I have to get done no matter what, and we forget the stuff that nurtures us, that grows. So you see how this slows down your brain throughout the day. What am I going to do to be the best employee, or if you are your own employer, employee in the business itself, what am I going to do to be the best person I can be today, the best business person? And then last, this is the most important question. What am I going to do when I get overwhelmed? If you don't make a plan for this, then you get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you've been going, and your brain is shutting down all day long. So if I stop and say, what am I going to do when I get overwhelmed? I'm going to take a big exhale, which I'll talk about later. I'm going to take a walk around the building. I'm going to go get tea or water or something just as a regroup. I'm going to press the reset button in some way. But if I don't make a plan for that, my brain is going shut down. By the end of the day, you're not doing your job to your fullest, and you're not the best person you can be in your business. Similar questions at the end of the day, but different. What did I do today that I'm proud of? What did I learn today? What did I accomplish today? Those are the biggies, because what did I do today versus what did I not do today feels really good. And then, is there anything I need to do tonight? Is there anything else I need to get done? Is that realistic? I wouldn't suggest doing that before you go to bed, but if you're someone that does it, you know, at a time that you have extra space in the day, if you have a set time that you end your day, that's different. And then what can I do to be the best spouse, parent, friend, person I can be when I get home? I regroup. That way I'm not coming home with, oh my gosh, I had so much to do today. Now I have to cook dinner, and you're pulling on my pant leg, and you want me to do something else, and my friend's calling on the phone, they want to hang out or something, I don't know. And, you know, like all of these things, and I'm not the best person I can be. So as I'm slowing down and working on this, I'm telling my brain, we're not in crisis mode. It feels like it, and that's okay. But we're not. You can function. We can problem solve. Let's slow down a little bit. We're not running from saber-toothed tigers. Feels like it, but we're not. Our brain is very primitive. It still runs from those saber-toothed tigers. So stopping and getting your brain to work in the morning and the afternoon is going to slow your body to the point of saying, we've got this. Not going to be 100%. You still might lose your keys. You still might get a little frantic. But at least you're taking that step to get all of your brain functioning again. The next thing that's important is to tell your body that you're not in crisis, which sometimes is easier than telling your mind. And they do that with breath. Now, some people, when you say take a deep breath, they go, and then they get anxious. Or they go, and then they get anxious. And it doesn't help. And so all these people are saying, take a deep breath, and these people are going, okay, I'm taking deep breaths. What do you want from me? And so I like to talk about how to acknowledge your breath without changing it necessarily. In order to communicate to your body we're not in crisis, which will communicate to your mind, I'm not in crisis. So, one of the things I like to do is just notice your breath. We all have a natural pause at the top and the bottom of your breath. We don't notice it, but there's a natural, and it's not long, but as we inhale, there's a natural pause, and then when it changes to the exhale, there's a natural pause. What I like about doing this is A, you don't have to change your breath if you're one of those people that get anxious when someone says, take a deep breath. And B, what happens many times is you start to notice other shifts in your day. We have these natural pauses in our day, no matter how busy you are. When I transition from slides, there's a small pause. When I transition from this task to this task, there's a small pause. When I get into my car before I put my keys in the ignition. There's all kinds of different pauses that happen in our natural daily life. And so over time, as I notice it in my breath, I notice it in my day-to-day life, and my brain, it doesn't feel so chaotic. Because what happens instead is we don't notice that pause and we go, 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 and my brain's in chaos. So just for 30 seconds, I want you to notice your breath without changing it. And I want you to notice the pause that happens at the top and the bottom. You guys notice it? Spending some time in that pause naturally elongates my breath. Naturally lets me take deeper breaths. And so I'm not getting anxious going, deep breath, it's supposed to relax me, it's not, I don't know what people are talking about with this thing. And instead, it just kind of naturally allows for it if you sit with it longer. And then again, the cool part is, you might start to notice these other pauses and realize, oh gosh, I do have breaks in the day. They're seconds, they're milliseconds sometimes. But those are times I can regroup. The next thing I like to talk about is exhaling. So again, my science geek comes out when I talk about exhaling. Throughout your day, and the reason people sometimes get anxious when we talk about taking a deep breath, is when I inhale throughout the entire day, I'm activating myself. And as I'm exhaling, I'm relaxing. So if your breath is at a natural pace, you're going like this all day long. If I stayed in exhale mode and relaxed all day, I'd get nothing done. And if I stayed in activation mode all day, I'd be in that hypervigilant, stressed out mode. So what happens when we get stressed is oftentimes we take a longer inhale than we do exhale because my body's running from saber-toothed tigers. It needs to activate. And so if this makes you anxious, don't do it because we're changing breath, and for some people that's anxious. You say, I'm going to keep my breath the way that it is, but I'm going to concentrate on making my exhale just 1 count or 2 counts more than my inhale. Then my body is saying, we're good. Things are good. We do this naturally. And everybody here has probably sighed at some point in their life, sometimes unintentionally. That's your body saying, we don't need to be this ramped up. But we're doing that in purpose. If the counts don't work, you can do this every time you stop at a stoplight. Every time you go get a drink of water. Every time you go to the bathroom. Every time you notice the pause, if you get to that. And if every time you're going, your body says, we don't have to be so ramped up. It's okay. So, whether you'd like to extend your exhale than your inhale, 2 counts more, or whether you just like to exhale, try that for just a moment and see what that does in your body. Can anybody notice that activating your body to relax?
Yes. Yep.
So you see, sometimes my brain doesn't understand, okay, we're we don't need to be activated. But if I tell my body to do that, at least I get a moment to regroup that tells my brain, okay, let's start problem solving again. We don't have to survive. We have to survive, but not actively. I'm going to move back and forth between body and mind. And the next piece, I'm going to go back to the mind. And I'm going to tell my brain how to problem solve. That is naturally going to get my brain moving again. We've all done a pro and con list, right? My pro and con list are more complicated than your average because I want to get your brain moving again. So the first step is I say brain dump everything possible solution to a problem, whether it's silly or not, right? I need to make $1 million. I'm going to rob a bank. I'm going to, you're like, I don't care how absurd they are, write them down. I'm going to change this in my business, whatever it is. And then take 2 or 3 that make the most sense. We do a pro and con list for each. So what that looks like is this. I have this grid. I'm doing a pro and con list to solution 1, a pro and con list to solution 2, a pro and con list to solution 3. Sometimes they overlap, but what happens is if I'm in chaos mode and I'm doing a pro and con list of just, here are the pros and cons of doing something, is it's really frantic. One side's longer than the other only because I'm not really thinking, and I kind of want to lean towards one way or the other because one way's easier than the other in all honesty. And I never really get the full piece. The idea of this is not to find your answer. The idea of this is to get your brain back in that solution focus. Able to problem solve. Able to do what it needs to do. And so I'm telling my brain, let's take a break from running and problem solve. And we're going to do it my way, not yours. And then I'm a little bit more grounded in, okay, where am I with all of these things? There's not always a right answer. We all know that as business owners. We've all sat with 1 or 2 things going, well, they both make sense, but I got to choose one. And I'm more likely to lean towards the more effective decision, or just pick one. But at least I'm not just picking one. At least I'm not going to rob a bank, right? I'm able to problem solve. I'm able to get my brain moving again. I'm able to get those neurotransmitters to repair themselves. I give a ton of information because everybody works differently. Everybody works some people can go cognitive so easy. Some people are like, cognitive, I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go body. Everybody's different. The next piece that I like to talk about is how do I regroup once I've lost that energy? Some people call it burnout. I think that's sometimes extreme. Sometimes I'm not fully burnt out. I just don't have energy to work. It's just a day, or it's just a week, and I feel like, ugh, why did I decide to do this? Can I just work at an agency job where someone tells me what to do, where my paycheck is regular, where, like, you know, we've all been in that place. We've all been in that place where we just feel like, ugh, I don't even like what I'm doing. And it's because we've gotten into that go, repair, you know, what do I do? And if I only talked about prevention, that's not realistic, because unfortunately we're all humans, which means we're all fallible, which means we're not going to do this stuff. And so the next piece I like to talk about is how do I regroup once I've lost it all? I stop and I say, what is that thing that gives me energy? What is that one thing that makes me like my job? For some people, it's flexibility. For some people, it's money. For some people, it's changes they see made in other people. For some people, there's a gamut. Again, for some people, it's this passion that they love, that they feel very drawn to. And for some people, it's practical. I have to support my family and what I need to do. What do I do to do more of that? Is there some way I can do more of that? I'm going to make sure that I see this type of person today. I'm going to make sure that this is who I connect with today. So that I can, and doing that intentionally, even if it's not giving you energy anymore, because we know that it does give you energy eventually. What are the necessary distractions? For me, it's my paperwork. My billing, have to do it or I don't get paid. But if I won the lottery and had working income, I wouldn't deal with it. I bill insurances sometimes. It's a pain in the butt. But I have to do it because I can't work for free. And so I have to say, what is that necessary distraction, and how do I make sure that that's not my full day? How do I make sure that that's bookended with things that really give me, that with, you know, change and noticing what I'm doing in people's lives, and you know, maybe I do it right after I give a talk so that I have a little bit more energy, or maybe I do it right after I see the ideal client. What do I do to stay focused on those things and get them done? Because the other thing is when you don't have energy, you go, I'll do that later. Right? I'd rather, what was that fun stuff on my to-do list she told me to put down? I'll do that. So this allows me to say, okay, I have to get this done, but I'm excited to get it done because that means I get to do this. Or because that means that, you know, I'm doing this because I'm going to spend some time going, this is why I do what I do. So what's my plan to focus? Making a plan for that, because we know you already don't have energy. If you don't have the plan, you're going to take a nap, eat lunch, call a friend, whatever it is that you probably shouldn't be doing, but you want to. And this last question I think is very important for entrepreneurs, because we tend to fluctuate between work and home. And we struggle with that balance or that focus. So what's my plan to stay focused in my home life? What do I do to maintain those relationships and those responsibilities? So that I'm not fully focused on what do I do to be the best worker I can be? What do I do to be the best mom I can be? What do I do to be the best partner I can be? And we tend to just go, okay, now I have to be this, and then I have to be this, and then I have to, and in reality, we're all of it, all at the same time. And so if I say, what do I do to focus at work, and then what do I do to focus at home, it all kind of starts to intermingle a little bit. Feels a little bit better. Balance doesn't necessarily mean I spend 50% of my time here, and I spend 50% of my time here. Sometimes it means this is more important than this right now, but then this is more important than this right now. But if I talk about that focus, then I'm able to decide where I put my energy. You only have so much. I don't care who you are. On your sheet, I give you a bunch of cheat sheets for skills. And I'm just going to go through a few of them that I think are really important. I talked about the mindfulness of breathing. I talked about the mindfulness of thought. And now I'm going to talk about mindfully worrying. For those of you that are worrywards. And what I mean by this is, and it sounds so counterintuitive, many people who are worriers spend their whole day saying, how do I stop worrying? What do I do to get rid of this? And what happens is it's like a little kid pulling on your pant leg going, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. And all it needs is for you to say, what do you want? And it says, oh, nothing. And it runs off. And so what I say is set aside 10 to 15 minutes a day and worry. If you worry outside of those 10 to 15 minutes, write it down and make sure you do it during your 10 to 15 minutes. Give it that space to worry. But put it in a box. Put it in that 15 minutes so you don't have to do it all day. And what happens for many people is they get to the 15 minutes and they think, I don't have anything to worry about. Well, good. Worry about not worrying for 15 minutes. Just make sure you worry, because then you give that place that time. But you do it in a mindful way instead of it popping up while you're doing this and then, oh gosh, I forgot to do that, and whatever else. The next piece, and one of the main reasons I have slides in general, is because of my age-old phrase saying, you shouldn't should on yourself. The reason I did a talk for an elderly, and there's an elderly couple in the room, and the man turned to the woman and said, what'd she say? And she said, don't poop on yourself. And I was like, oh gosh. So I have to make sure it's written somewhere so everyone knows I say should. But we spend a lot of time saying, I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done, I shouldn't have said that. What do you think they thought of me when I did that? I should be getting more done in the day. I should be making more money. I should. And we're tearing ourselves down. And so I always like to say, as soon as you notice a should, as soon as you notice that light switch of a should, notice it. Don't try to push it away, because again, it's that small child pulling on your pant leg. But instead, give it some space and say, I notice you as a thought. This is a crazy thing, but thoughts are not facts. Just because I think it does not make it true. And so I should be doing more is a thought. I'm having the thought I should be, or I shouldn't have. And I'm noticing that as a thought, and I'm saying that is a thought. I don't know if it's true or not. It's a thought. It gives it less power, and I say, okay, what can I do? What am I going to do? It feels a lot less destructive. I mean, I feel the energy change when I talk about it. Right? And when I talk about should, it feels dark and gross, and I tend to, my shoulders kind of go, ugh. And when I say, what can I do, what will I do, I get a lot more powerful. Our words, our thoughts, they come from somewhere. They don't come from nowhere. And they come from neurotransmitters, which we know are on the fritz right now because I'm stressed out. And I can still manage them by saying that is a thought. I don't know if it's a fact or not. I give a ton of information in my talks. It's like a fire hose, and that's why I give the handouts with some of the stuff. And that's why I give, and I do it because different things are going to resonate with different people. But I know myself, and I have left talks that I feel very energized by, going, what am I supposed to do? That's why I like Boost Biz, because I say, what am I going to do? But other than that, a month later, that paper went in the trash somewhere. I forgot what my movement was. I forgot what that thing I was going to do that was going to change my life. And a lot of that comes from a mental shift, a mental block. And so I like to actually spend some time saying, what now? How do I make this permanent? What do I do to make this my holy grail? To make this what I need it to be. So I talk about the excuses we make. Again, I will make sure to put this in a link to the people on Facebook Live. These are the excuses I hear and say, and I'm sure you've got others. I don't have time. I'll exhale later. I'll figure this out, problem solve later. I don't have time for this. I'm too busy. My brain's frantic. My problem solving, which is the stuff I'm talking about, it's all kind of this vicious cycle, is on the fritz. What do I do? And some people say set an alarm, but what happens for me is the alarm goes off, I get activated. Oh gosh, I have one more thing to do. And then I won't do it, whatever. Turn it off. I like to talk about picking one thing every day that is my place to ground. When I'm eating breakfast, when I'm driving, something when I'm taking a shower, something you know you do every day. And make that your cue to use whatever skill resonates with you. Pick one of them for now. And say, this is my time to do that. Right? Whether it's be worry, whether it be breathing, whether it be problem solving, whether it be asking your questions for the beginning and the end of the day, whether it be watching your thoughts and your shoulds. I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to practice that full-heartedly while I eat breakfast, while I take a shower, while I drink my coffee, while I use the bathroom. I don't care what it is. It's something that you do every day. You're already doing it while I brush my teeth. I'm going to make that my mindful time. I don't have to set aside time for it. I can just do it. My mind wanders far too much for this. You're talking about all this stuff, but my mind is wandering. Well, it is because you're stressed, and I just talked to you about that. Right? We can go back to those science pictures. Your mind is going to wander. This stuff helps it. And so when you catch your mind going, oh, I can't concentrate, don't worry about it. Just notice when you get distracted. Instead of saying, I'm too distracted, I can't do it, say, okay, I'm distracted, let me come back to it. It's neither good nor bad, it just is. It's part of my brain keeping me alive. We can appreciate the fact that my brain shuts down a little bit because it does save me from saber-toothed tigers. And if a bear walked into this room right now, I would be able to survive because my brain is really powerful. And it does the things it needs to do, just sometimes it gets confused as to what's going on in my life. And so if you get distracted, just notice the distraction. I'm distracted right now, let me come back to it. I'm distracted right now, let me come back to it. You might have to do that a million times, and that's okay. The more you do it, the more the path in your brain actually changes. There's a lot of research that says when they look at brain scans, the path moves the more you do that to a place where it says, okay, let's focus. It takes time. It doesn't happen once or twice that you do it. Unfortunately, that make it a lot easier. But it still works. I can't remember to do it. I keep trying. I hear all this stuff. I don't remember to do it. Find your cue. The thing that reminds you. Again, I mean, you know, if it's your phone alarm, great. That doesn't work for me. Stoplights are a big cue for me. I'm stopped anyway. I might as well spend some time on stuff. Stop signs. When I take a drink of water, if I'm not, you know, if I'm sitting at my desk, that's a big grounding. Water actually has a lot of nurturing bodies and naturally grounds you. And so if you notice every time you take a drink of water, it can be very nurturing. I'm going to do that now. That was my transition because I'm thirsty too. But finding something that you do. And take a deep breath. Exhale. Do something that takes 30 seconds while you're doing it. And make that your cue. Are you going to do it 100% of the time at first? Probably not. But if a few times you remember to do it, then over time it becomes that cue for you. That, oh, that's my grounding thing. That's that thing Allison talked about. That's what I'm supposed to do right now. And I can regroup with that. I don't do it right. Oh my gosh, all these perfectionists. I find entrepreneurs breed perfectionists sometimes. I think there's a reason for that. Because there's a benefit to it. You're a go-getter too. Am I doing this right? I didn't fully understand it. Oh gosh, I got distracted. Is that okay? But how long am I supposed to breathe for? If you're doing it, you're doing it right. There's no way to do it wrong. And I fully encourage you to take these and mold them a little bit. Because if you mold it, then it's becoming you. And you're going to do it more, and it's going to make more sense. So give up on trying to do it right, and just do it. I think this is cheesy and hokey. I am not going to lie. When I first started teaching this stuff, I thought it was cheesy and hokey. I said I was never going to be the fruity-tooty therapist that I saw, and I was only going to be strictly cognitive and skill-based, and that is crap. This stuff works. And so if you think it's hokey, if you think it's weird, embrace the weird for a week. See what happens. Yeah, it's hokey, it's fruity, I get it. It works. So just try it, see what happens. Embrace your weird. I'm sure you have other excuses too, which is fine, but find your way to get past them. Find that thing that's your block, your what is it that keeps me from doing this, and make it yours. My last slide is just ways to get in touch with me. I do have a Facebook page, Allison Johanson, LCSW. I have articles on there, Facebook Lives on there, different material if you'd like to continue. The same with my LinkedIn. I'm less active than Facebook and still active on LinkedIn. Also give my website, and then this goofy URL at the end, which I will make sure to put on the Facebook Live, but it's also the QR that's at the bottom of the page, is free resources. It's a mailing list if you want it to be. So the first resource you can get without joining the mailing list, and then after that, you can opt into the mailing list. So tons of ways that I give. I mean, I really want to give as many people these skills as possible. And so if you'd like to continue with this, these are great ways to just continue getting different skills, trying me out for size, as some people might say, seeing if it's a good fit, whatever works for you, but ways that you can sit with or get more information and more details on some of the skills. I think our next part is to talk about our action steps.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, let's all thank Allison. All right, and I'm going to switch back over here. Do we have any questions from the room while I'm switching back here? Any questions?
Have you noticed any intergenerational, when a younger brain or an older brain or they're...
You know, if you live a very stressful life, whether you're young or old, you're going to be more prone to stress.
Okay.
And so if you're a little older, you probably have had more opportunities to be stressed. However, if you have lived a very traumatic childhood, a lot of things happen in your life, your brain is naturally turned off a little bit. And so, yes and no.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, I didn't see any questions online, but I know we're right at time. So with that, I want to thank a couple of our different allies. So as we go through, first of all, Allison, thank you for coming and presenting. People probably saw a bunch of my comments there, so go back and review those and make sure that they were right and I was doing the right thing for you and all that, because I'm very stressed and worried about that. And then add the links to the video as well, so everybody else can get the handouts that you provide the people in the room here.
Perfect.
Want to thank DaVinci Institute for letting us host the event here. They provide all kinds of other training things. Go to DaVinciInstitute.com to see their schedule and all kinds of cool futurist stuff, coding stuff, all kinds of cool stuff. And if you happen to be in Westminster and need an office space, it's a great location for that as well. Want to thank myself for the MC and the great job I did. Linda for our coordinator that makes all this happen behind the scenes, and Ben, the guy behind the camera, for doing the Facebook Live. So thank you to all those people. And then of course to Drew Shockley, who is the founder of Boost. And he writes, because he gets the bigger commercial than the rest of us. He asks, are you tired of visitors bouncing away from your website? Let Call to Action Alliance dive into your business passions to create a standout online experience that moves your traffic to action. Remember, passion ignites action. Book an appointment with Drew at ctaalliance.com/bookdrew. So with that, I'd like to sign off from all the Facebook people. Thank you for joining us, and feel free to add more comments or questions, and I know Allison's going to go back and review this and hopefully respond to a bunch of those comments or reach out directly. So that's it. So thank you. Goodbye.